All right. So before we get into gameplay on Warzone, I wanted to spend a little bit of time speaking about Scott Hall and his lasting impression on me and my brother who's joining us for some Warzone gameplay. But for people who don't know, and by now you should know, uh, Scott Hall passed away today. I think he was 62. I think he was. He had a broken hip, went in for surgery, happened to get a blood clot, and it caused him to have three heart attacks. And he, I don't know if it was a coma that he was in or all that, but he had three heart attacks. They put him on life support. And today, March 14th, on a Monday, they they waited for his family to come in. He had his family with him. He was surrounded by friends. Kevin Nash, X Pac, I know were there, and they decided to go ahead and, unfortunately, take him off life support. And when they took him off life support, he did, in fact, um, stay on for a good amount of time. He was breathing on his own, but I guess it was just too much, and he ultimately ended up passing away. And for me, this is a hard one because Scott Hall and the NWO, WCW back in 96, 97, 98, 99. That was literally like my teenage years. That was like I was just hooked to wrestling. I went to school. I was in middle school, and I heard some kids talking behind me. And now, a little bit of backstory here. I did watch wrestling back in the early 90s, probably like 93, 94, maybe even earlier than that, with my cousins. But I just never got into it. I don't know, just it wasn't for me. Like I enjoyed it, but not enough to where I would stick around. So fast forward a few years later, I'm in middle school, and I got these kids behind me talking about I don't know if it was, I think it had to been the pay-per-view, and they were talking about the pay-per-view. And me being an idiot, I turned around and I looked at both of them and I said, you know that wrestling's fake, right? And they jumped on me and said, you don't know what you're talking about, da 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 da. Why don't you watch it tonight and tell us what you think? I'm like, all right, whatever. So I indeed went home after school and I popped up and watched Nitro, WCW Monday Nitro. And I want to say that the first episode I watched was Goldberg's debut, which was September of 97. I could be wrong on that. But I do want to say that's when I started watching wrestling and I was hooked instantly. I mean, it had me, uh, it was everything that I was looking for. At the time, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I found it in pro wrestling. And then, you had the NWO, you had Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hogan, Eric Bischoff, the whole list of guys in the NWO. And I was just hooked from that point on. And I still watch it to this day. I don't watch WWE as hardcore as I did in the past, but I still watch wrestling to this day. I became a professional wrestler. I was a professional wrestler for about 14 years. And it has a lot to do with the NWO, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, just to name a few. And so what I kind of want to do here before we get into Warzone gameplay with my brother is just talk about our memories of Scott Hall, some of our favorite matches of his, promos, just anything about Scott Hall that you remember. Kind of like doing a little bit of a celebration of him here because I mean him and the NWO changed professional wrestling to what we know it still to this day of what professional wrestling was. If it wasn't for the NWO, we wouldn't have a DX. WCW wouldn't have competed with WWF. Um, they were the cool heels. There was never any cool heels, right? They kind of invented that. Just so many things that they revolutionized back in '96 when Hogan dropped the leg on Macho and joined up with the Outsiders, Hall and Nash, and formed the NWO. I mean, who would have thought? Here we are, 20 some odd years later, and there's still people wearing NWO shirts. I'm wearing NWO red and black right now. Like that just goes to show you just how impactful they were. But Willie, um, what are some of your memories? We'll get into matches maybe a little bit after, but what are some of your memories with Scott Hall?
I mean, just to begin with, his promos himself, he was always so like he's somebody that I always thought like I could be wrong, but never follow the script. He was always so blunt and like it was always so entertaining to just hear what he would say. Because he always starts out with the, of course, hey yo, and then you're like, oh fuck, like what's next, you know?
Hmm.
So like it always like drew me in, just promos himself. And then you can go into like the way he looked, right? He was like so fucking hairy and just fucking he's just a big motherfucker and it's like no one looked like him. Like they really did. Everyone was always like fucking jacked and fucking clean cut and he just looked like he just came off the streets of like beating somebody the fuck up, you know? So just from the way like he looked and the way he talked, it was always something new and refreshing.
I think everything he did, because I mean, obviously, he comes in as Scott Gator Hall because he's from Florida, and Florida has gators, so I guess might as well just put Gator in his middle name. You know, he's got
Where's
that huge mustache, and you're right though, he was a huge dude. I mean, Scott Hall was a
yeah.
big guy, and I think it was kind of cool. He comes in as Gator Hall, and from there he goes, you know, to WCW for a brief, short time. Wrestled some of the indies, AWA, I believe he was there for a brief stint, and then here he goes to WWF, and he becomes Razor Ramon, and that's like when,
Hmm.
you know, he obviously caught steam and became, you know, somebody huge as far as a name
Hmm.
goes. And the promos that he did, those vignettes that he did, you
Dude.
know, were just great. You know, the toothpick, you know, hey
El
Chico, you know,
Chico.
exactly, exactly. Kind of a rip off of Scarface, but I mean,
Yeah.
he did it so perfectly. And you know, he goes from Razor Ramon, and then in '96 he jumps ship and goes back to WCW. And I'll never forget, and I still watch it to this day. Um, and my wife and I have actually gone back and started watching old WCW again. We started from the very first Nitro in September of '95, and now we are in '99. We are in just after Slamboree, so we're like the tail end of May, going into June. And but I'll never forget him walking down. It was in the middle of a match. It was Mike Enos and somebody else wrestling, and here comes Scott Hall just casually walking down, you know, the steps of the arena, and you see him off in the distance, and you kind of like have to like look like, is that really who I think it is? And here he comes jumping into the ring, and you know, tells the guys to get the hell out of the ring, and he cuts that infamous
Yeah.
promo. You know, you all know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. You know, you want a
Mm.
war? Well, you got a war. You know, and he says, me and you know my friend, the big man, uh, you know, who happened to be Kevin Nash, who debuted the week after. And then it was just off to the running from there. You know, then you had Hall and Nash showing up, you know, to the arena, sitting ringside, showing that they had a ticket so they didn't get kicked out. You
Yeah.
know, they were doing their taunts and everything else, and it was just awesome. And fast forward to Bash at the Beach, '96. Um, we all wondered who the third man was. You know, it was rumored, you know, this person was going to be the third man, this person was going to be the third man, but ultimately it ended up being Hogan, drops a leg on Macho, and joins with the Outsiders. And man, when Mean Gene is trying to interview Hogan, and that ring is just littered with trash, bro, like everybody is throwing anything they could possibly get their hands on in the middle of that ring. That's when you
Love
knew
it.
that you had something beautiful going for you right there.
You did, dude. So, like, when I think of Hall, I first thing I like think about is him in WWF as Razor. I don't know why. It stands out more. That's like the first thing that stands out to me. Just like the theme song and the way he dressed and the way he acted. And then I guess we can segue into like the matches, but like the ladder match with him and Sean, and it was just like I don't know, it hits home when I think about Hall. as him being Razor more than anything.
Yeah, I hear you there. For me, when I think of Hall, I think of NWO because of the era that I grew up in and when I got hooked to wrestling. And he would come out and do his, "Hey yo, it's survey time. How many of you came here to see WCW?
Right.
And one more for the good guys and uh,
Yeah.
all that." But it was just like his mic work was amazing. A brilliant mind for the business too. We would not have the black and white Sting if it wasn't for Scott Hall. Scott
Oh
Hall was the
no.
one who came up with that idea. Scott Hall approached Sting and said one time to him at the arena, "Hey, have you seen The Crow?" Sting's like, "No." And he was like, "You should. And you should paint your face like him too."
Hmm.
That's all it took, and that pretty much launched Sting's career. Don't Granted, he was already a huge name, but he's still black and
Yeah.
white Crow Sting to this day.
Yeah, he is.
It's like Hall just had a fucking great mind for the business. And one of the matches that I wrestled here in Vegas at the Call for Alley Club a few years back, um, he actually was there and he was wandering around backstage. And he actually came up and approached me and the guy that I was wrestling that night, and he was, taking the time out. Now we were right to go through that curtain too, and he comes up and he's talking to us, and I'm like, well, shit, I can't go out there now. I'm standing here talking to Scott Hall. You know what I mean? But it's like, what a trip it is that right before I go out for my match, Scott Hall's back there talking to me.
Right.
And talk about no pressure, talk about not being nervous. Here's Scott Hall, one of the all-time greats, talking to you right before you go out and wrestle your match. He's gonna watch your match.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no pressure there, man. No pressure at all.
None at all.
But what a career he had, and I think he's honestly, um, Kurt Hennig won the AWA World Heavyweight Championship, if I'm not mistaken, but he never did win the big one in WWF or WCW. So
Hmm.
I think Scott Hall is probably the best all-around performer who had never was World Heavyweight Champion. Would you agree with that?
I, oh yeah, 100%. I
How
do.
crazy that is to think though that Scott Hall was never World Heavyweight Champion.
Never, dude.
It's like that's
Never.
just
He that
crazy.
that IC belt was his though, man.
Yeah, he put the Intercontinental title pretty much on the map for sure.
He did, dude.
It's like, yeah, Pat Patterson is the original champion, but I mean, the runs, the matches, the feuds that Razor had with the Intercontinental title, and like you said, the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 10 ladder match. I mean, holy
Yeah, dude.
shit,
That
that
put everything on the map, dude.
it did. And I remember Bret Hart being jealous over that too because he actually had the first ladder match, but it wasn't
Yep.
televised.
That's
So
shitty.
he got pissed off because Shawn and Scott got the credit for that. But I
Well
mean,
deserved.
yeah, absolutely well deserved, And his run in WCW was great. In TNA, as he was having his demons that he was battling and all that,
Yep.
and then when he returned to the WWF with the NWO in 2002, while it was a short-lived run, it was nice to see my boys, the NWO Black and White back on TV, and it was nice to see
Yeah, dude.
them run rampant over WWF for the short time that it was there.
Yeah, that was nice. It's like refreshing seeing him like on a big screen
Right. And the whole
right
build
after
up,
WCW ending. Yeah.
right. And the build up too with McMahon threatening to kill his own company, his own creation, and he spins around in the
Yep.
chair, and the back of the chair says NWO on it. And I remember Ric Flair telling McMahon, "No, don't do this. I went through this in WCW. You don't know what you're doing. That you're going to kill your company for sure." And I just thought that
Yeah.
was all great, And he ended up wrestling Stone Cold at WrestleMania, and all that.
Hell
But
yeah, dude.
I mean, what a career this guy had. He's a two-time Hall of Famer. He went in as Razor, then he goes in with the NWO. Well deserved. I would even say a three-time Hall of Famer if you want to put him in there with the outsiders, him and Nash. You know what I mean?
They need to.
What?
They really do. That's
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that stable alone with him and Nash. Holy
Right.
shit, what a combo, dude.
Honestly, that was my favorite tag team when I was watching it back then too. Them and the Steiner brothers and the Harlem Heat.
Yeah, dude.
I was a WCW guy anyway, though. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some WWF, but there was just something about WCW that just really hooked me.
It was raw, yeah. It was I feel like it was kind of more chaotic than like Raw, was at 98, 99, 97.
Yeah, I would definitely say with the NWO years in WCW, I would say 96, 97, and then about halfway through of 98 was like the best years for WCW and the NWO and Scott Hall and all of
Yeah.
them. 99 starts to get a little weird, and then after 99, forget about it. WCW just isn't the same. But
Yeah.
what's your favorite moment with Hall as Razor, and then what's your favorite moment of Hall in the NWO and WCW?
Oof, man. With Razor, it has to be like fucking just the feud he had with Shawn, probably. Um, yeah, I would say Shawn, because it's just like I felt like they were a good match together and they
Hmm.
worked well together. Um, and then Razor just like his theme song and the way he comes out and the way he presents himself, all that put together was fucking amazing. And
Right.
then like him and WCW with NWO, I mean like this is attitude, like he fucked everybody up. I feel like Nash was always just like this big guy, right? And he just like powerbomb fucking everybody, but Scott, dude, he's just like I felt like he just did like random shit, like throwing people through fucking like trailers or like fucking he hitting people with like chairs. It's like he comes out of nowhere and just fucks people up. I feel like he was more aggressive than like Hogan or Nash was.
Um, I would say to a degree, yes, more so maybe than Nash, but dude, Hogan, if you go back and watch some of the early NWO stuff, Hogan was an asshole, bro. I mean, Hogan was absolutely evil, dude. Absolutely
Yeah,
evil.
dude.
He was pretty much the only one in the NWO who was an actual heel. Like he didn't want the
Hmm.
cheers, he wasn't trying to play the cool heel like Nash and Hall were. Like Hogan was an asshole, bro.
Yeah.
It was great to see too. What a transition he made from say your prayers and eat your vitamins to wearing black and white and beating the shit out of people.
I know, dude.
For me, my favorite Razor is probably the run that he had 93, 94 with the Intercontinental title matches against Mr. Perfect, teaming up with
Hmm.
Flair at Survivor Series, I think it was. I mean, he even put 1, 2, 3 Kid over on live on Raw,
He
which
did,
was
dude.
unheard of at that time because nobody was doing that at that time, putting over younger talent like that. And he got 1, 2, 3 Kid
Yeah.
over. And 1, 2, 3 Kid, I think, knocked himself out in that match too. And 1, 2, 3 Kid didn't know what the hell he was doing halfway through that match.
Yeah. Oh,
But his
dude.
matches with Goldust, his matches with Diesel, um, with Brett, I mean, what more can you say about Razor in WWF? I mean, he tore it up.
He's a workhorse,
He
dude.
was, he really was, and that's what the Intercontinental title was. It was a working man's title. And
Yep.
then for him in WCW and the NWO, my favorite memory of his is probably early on um, of the NWO's inception and how Hogan, Hall, and Nash had like this swagger to them. Um, yeah, they were bad guys. Yeah, they wore black and all that, but it was just like something about them made them stand out more than any of the others.
Yeah,
And it was the
dude.
way they portrayed themselves, the way they carried themselves. Um, his promos were always great. Um, he always had to take the survey, and that was entertaining as hell too, because towards the later stages of the NWO, people were actually starting to boo the NWO, and he was just looking around like, yeah, whatever. But
Yep.
and then him helping Nash win the world title against Goldberg with the taser, that's a big moment. Him having the ladder match at Sold Out '99, um, with Goldberg for the taser. I mean, there was just so many things that Hall did, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes too. Like he would talk to guys, kind of coach them through, and make them be better performers. And I don't know, man. It's like Scott Hall is going to be missed for sure, dude. It's like what we saw on camera was a whole like different side of Scott Hall from behind the camera.
Oh, I'm sure, dude.
It's like he's
I'm
loved,
sure.
he's praised, he's people are, if you check Twitter right now, I mean, everybody's just, falling over themselves. Can't believe that he's actually gone, and he went through a rough patch of his life, and thanks to Diamond Dallas Page, he was able to get back on track and, got himself in a
Hmm.
better position, in a better place, became a two-time WWE Hall of Famer, and because of some bullshit broken hip, man, it leads to a blood
That's
clot,
all it
and
takes, dude.
now he's gone. Three heart attacks later, and Skull is gone, but. I mean, he might be
Three
gone,
heart
but he'll never
attacks.
be forgotten ever.
Oh, absolutely not, dude.
Um,
Nope.
I think I'm just glad that I was able to go back and relive these moments with Natalie, my wife, and um, start to watch these WCW shows again and just get the appreciate all over again just what Scott Hall contributed to
Yeah.
the wrestling business. And I mean, at that time, it's like you don't understand unless you were there in the time in the moment watching it live every Monday night. The Monday Night Wars was the most fun, the most awesome time to be a wrestling fan. It exploded in popularity. Nothing will ever come close to that, I don't think, ever again. And
No,
I
it
mean,
won't.
and it was Scott Hall who really the moment that he walked down those steps and got in that ring on Nitro,
Hmm.
Memorial Day of '96. Um, it's all attributed to him. There's a round of people here: Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hollywood Hogan. But the fourth guy, Eric Bischoff. If it wasn't for
Oh
Eric
yeah.
Bischoff, we wouldn't have the NWO and we wouldn't have the wrestling boom that we had in '96.
Nope. Absolutely not.
And I even saw that his podcast at 83 Weeks on Twitter posted a picture of Hall in his NWO shirt and said, "Without this man, there wouldn't be an 83 Weeks podcast." And it's true.
Hell yeah. Hell
It's
yeah,
true.
dude.
Any final things you want to say, wrapping up on Scott Hall here, man?
Um, I'll wrap it up with a trivia question for you.
Oh God, I knew this was coming. Hit me.
What was Razor's last match in WWF before he jumped to WCW?
Are we talking televised or non-televised?
This is televised.
Because obviously I know the curtain call, um, at Madison Square Garden.
Okay, then that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, that actually wasn't televised, by the way. That was a house show.
Ooh, Google's got it wrong.
Uh,
Who was it with?
wasn't it against Kevin Diesel or Triple
Nope.
H?
Triple H.
Triple H, that's what it was. And then Shawn and 1, 2, 3 and Kevin come out. That's what it was.
Yep,
That got Triple H in a lot of heat, right?
it did. I remember that.
They buried him. He was actually supposed to be King of the Ring that year, and they said, "Nope, we're gonna
Gave it to
punish
Stone
you."
Cold, didn't
Yep,
they?
sure did.
Yep.
They they couldn't punish Hall and Nash because they were gone. So got to punish somebody.
Stone
And we're not going
Cold.
to punish Shawn because Shawn's our number one right now.
Oh man, the corporate business world, dude.
So stupid.
Holy shit.
So damn dumb. But but yeah, what more can you say about Skull Hall? He's in a better place. Um, at least he's not suffering, and his legacy will live on. On the WWE network and elsewhere. And it's one of my childhood heroes. Something I grew up on, and it's hitting me harder and harder as the night progresses. But thank you, Scott, for everything. Condolences to his family, and what they're going through, and all of his closest friends. But just know that Scott Hall will never be forgotten for sure.
Never.
And with that, I'm gonna leave it on a little graphic here and a little moment of silence for Scott Hall.